My name is Liam Jones and I grew up believing peace fixed everything. That was what adults said when things felt unfair. Keep the peace, they told me, like peace was more important than truth. I lived in a small town where everyone smiled, but eyes watched closely. My family owned a repair shop by the river. It was not fancy, but it was ours. I worked there after school, learning how broken things could be made useful again. My father trusted the town council. He believed rules protected honest people. I believed him too. Life felt steady, like a slow river that would never flood. Then one meeting changed everything. I did not know it then, but that night was the first crack in my world. I remember the chairs, the bright lights, and the calm voices telling us what was best. They spoke of order, growth, and peace. No one spoke of loss. I went home thinking nothing would change. I was wrong, and that mistake cost me everything I loved. The letter came 2 weeks later. It was thin, white, and official. It said our land was needed for development. They promised fair payment and quick action. My father read it twice, then folded it neatly. He said fighting would only cause trouble. We keep the peace, he told me. I wanted to argue, but I trusted him. The town council meetings were quiet, almost kind. They thanked us for our sacrifice. They said the project would help everyone. When we asked questions, they smiled and gave soft answers. The price they offered was too low, but they said it was final. Neighbors avoided our eyes. Friends stopped visiting. It felt like we were already gone. On the last day, we packed our tools and memories. The shop door closed with a sound I still hear in my sleep. I felt something hard grow inside me, something angry and cold. But I said nothing. I was still trying to keep the peace. We moved into a small apartment on the edge of town. The walls were thin, and the air smelled damp. My father tried to stay strong, but I saw his hands shake at night. He searched for work, but no one called back. The development project started fast. Big machines tore into the land where I grew up. I rode my bike past the site every day, watching our past disappear. One morning, my father collapsed. Stress, the doctor said. His heart could not carry the weight anymore. I sat beside his bed, holding his hand, feeling useless. He whispered that peace was not worth this pain. Those were his last clear words. After he passed, the town sent flowers and kind notes. The council sent nothing. I stood alone at the funeral, staring at faces that would not meet my eyes. That was the moment peace broke inside me. I did not scream. I did not cry. I made a promise instead. I would not forget. I would not forgive. And I would not keep the peace ever again. After the funeral, I returned to the apartment and packed my father's things. In a small box, I found old papers from the shop. Deeds, permits, letters. One folder caught my eye. It held copies of old agreements with the town. As I read, my heart raced. The land was protected. The council had no right to take it the way they did. They had skipped steps and forged approvals. My father must have known but chose silence. I felt anger burn through me, but also focus. This was not just loss. This was theft. I spent nights reading laws online, learning words that once scared me. I took notes, building a timeline. The more I learned, the clearer it became. The council wanted speed, not fairness. They counted on us staying quiet. I stopped being quiet inside my head. I started planning. I kept my job at a warehouse, saved every dollar, and listened more than I spoke. People talk when they think you are harmless. I let them believe that. Peace was their shield. I planned to take it away. I knew I could not act alone or rush. Power protects itself. I needed proof that could not be ignored. I volunteered at the town records office, smiling, filing papers. No one questioned me. I worked late, scanning documents, matching dates, finding gaps. Each missing form told a story. Each false signature pointed to someone hiding. I copied everything, storing it safely. At night, I walked past the new buildings rising on our land. They looked clean and bright, built on lies. I imagined my father's hands fixing engines where glass walls now stood. That image fueled me. I kept my voice calm, my face blank. Inside, I sharpened my resolve. I learned who voted for the project, who pushed it through. I learned who got paid. The names repeated like a bad song. I was careful not to be seen. I changed routines, stayed patient. Revenge was not about anger. It was about timing. I wanted justice that would last, not noise that faded. Peace had taken everything from me. I would return the favor, piece by piece. My first move was small. I sent an anonymous tip to a regional reporter. I included just enough truth to spark interest, not enough to warn anyone. The story ran as a short note at first. The council laughed it off. I watched them on the local news, smiling, calm. Baseless claims, they said. I felt nothing. I knew what came next. The reporter reached out quietly, asking for more. I waited a week, then sent documents. Real ones. Clear ones. The tone changed. Questions grew sharper. The council called emergency meetings. I stayed invisible. At work, people whispered about corruption. I listened. Fear crept into the town like fog. One night, someone slipped a note under my door. It said, "Let it go. Keep the peace." I laughed for the first time in months. They were scared. That meant I was doing something right. I burned the note and kept going. Peace was their demand. Truth was mine. And truth does not stay buried when given air. The second article hit hard. It named procedures skipped and laws broken. It did not name me. That was important. The council blamed old records and clerks. No one believed them. An investigation opened. I was asked to help review files, since I volunteered there. I agreed, hiding my smile. I guided investigators to what they needed, acting surprised each time. At night, I barely slept. I replayed every step, checking for mistakes. I thought of my father and felt steady. One council member resigned. Another denied everything. Protests formed outside the new buildings. People held signs about fairness and stolen land. I stood in the crowd, unseen. The pressure grew. The council tried to rush a settlement, offering money to affected families. It was too late for that. Money could not buy silence now. I sent one last file to the reporter. It showed direct payments tied to the project. The story exploded. Phones rang. Doors closed. Smiles vanished. The peace they loved so much shattered under the weight of truth. And I was just getting started. With the town in chaos, I focused on the final step. Exposure alone was not enough. I wanted accountability. I filed a civil claim using my father's name, supported by the evidence now public. Lawyers lined up, eager and hungry. The council tried to delay, but the court moved fast. Hearings were scheduled. Faces I once feared now looked tired and small. I spoke calmly when asked, telling the story without emotion. Facts did the work for me. The judge listened closely. Outside the courthouse, cameras waited. I avoided them. This was not about fame. It was about balance. The ruling came weeks later. The land seizure was illegal. Assets were frozen. Restitution ordered. The development stopped. The buildings stood empty, symbols of greed. I felt no joy, only release. The town began to heal, slowly. People apologized, some sincerely, some not. I accepted none of it. Justice had spoken louder than words. Peace, forced and false, had failed. Truth had won. I walked away from the courthouse lighter than I had felt in years, knowing my promise was kept. Life did not return to what it was, and I did not expect it to. I moved out of the apartment and into a small house near the river. The shop could not be rebuilt, but the land was returned. I stood there often, listening to the water. The council was replaced. New rules were written. Transparency became a promise, not a slogan. People treated me differently now. Some with respect, others with fear. I kept my distance. Revenge had not consumed me, but it had changed me. I learned that silence can be dangerous, and peace can be used as a weapon. I started working with others who lost property or voice. I taught them how to read records, how to ask questions. I never raised my voice. I did not need to. The truth carried weight on its own. At night, I dreamed less of anger and more of purpose. My father's words echoed differently now. Peace is not quiet. Peace is fair. And if it is not fair, it is not peace at all. Months passed, and the town settled into a new rhythm. The empty buildings were sold, funds returned to families. I watched from a distance, no longer at the center. That was how I wanted it. One evening, I found myself back at the riverbank where the shop once stood. I imagined the sound of tools, laughter, life. I did not feel loss anymore. I felt resolve. What happened to us could happen anywhere. I decided to leave town and help others fight quiet injustice. I packed light, carrying only documents, notes, and memories. Before leaving, I visited my father's grave. I told him the truth had been heard. I told him peace had been redefined. As I drove away, the sun rose over the water, steady and bright. I knew my path would not be easy. Standing up rarely is. But I also knew this. When people say, keep the peace while stealing everything, they are not asking for peace. They are asking for permission. I would never give that again. The road took me to towns that felt familiar. Different names, same smiles, same quiet fear. I stayed short periods, listening more than talking. People shared stories once they trusted me. Lost homes. Broken promises. Counsels that spoke softly while taking loudly. I helped them organize facts, not anger. We built cases brick by brick. I never led from the front. I stayed in the background, guiding, correcting, steady. Each small win reminded me why I started. Some nights were heavy. Revenge has a cost, even when dressed as justice. I learned to rest, to breathe, to remember my limits. I was not trying to burn the world. I was trying to light corners left dark. The phrase, keep the peace, followed me like a ghost. I challenged it every time. Peace without fairness is silence forced on the weak. True peace stands on truth. As my work spread, so did resistance. Doors closed. Threats appeared. I stayed calm. Fear feeds on reaction. I gave it none. I had learned that lesson well. In one town, the fight nearly broke me. The evidence was strong, but the power was stronger. Courts delayed. Media stayed quiet. I felt the old anger rise. I stepped back, remembering my father. Rushing had cost him everything. I slowed down. I found new angles, new voices. We waited. Time exposed cracks. A witness came forward. A record surfaced. The case moved again. Victory came not with noise, but with relief. I realized then that revenge was never my true goal. Balance was. The scales had been tipped too long. I was only pushing back. I wrote everything down, creating guides for others. Knowledge was the real weapon. I shared it freely. If peace was to exist, it had to be defended by many, not enforced by few. When I finally returned home for a visit, the river greeted me like an old friend. The land felt calm. I felt calm. That was peace. Earned, not demanded. People sometimes ask how I stayed faceless. I tell them it is easy when you care more about the outcome than the credit. I never wanted statues or thanks. I wanted systems to work. Staying unseen kept the focus where it belonged. It also kept me safe. I changed phones, addresses, routines. I trusted few, but those I did, I trusted fully. Trust, like peace, must be built honestly. Looking back, I see how close I came to losing myself to anger. The line is thin. Justice can become obsession if you are not careful. I learned to step away when needed. I learned to forgive myself for feeling rage. Feelings are not the enemy. Silence is. When I sit by the river now, I think of the shop, the loss, the fight. I do not wish it undone. It shaped me. They said keep the peace and took everything from me. They were wrong. Peace was never my plan. Fairness was. The world is full of quiet deals and louder lies. I learned to hear what was not said. When leaders spoke of harmony, I listened for who paid the price. When rules changed fast, I asked why. These habits never left me. They became part of who I am. I no longer see myself as broken. I see myself as rebuilt, like the machines my father fixed. Stronger in the right places. I sometimes teach workshops, using stories instead of lectures. People remember stories. They feel them. I tell them about a shop by a river, about letters and meetings, about peace used as a leash. I never use names. Names are not important. Patterns are. When someone says, "What can one person do?" I smile. One person can ask the right question. One person can refuse silence. That is how it starts. Always. At night, when the world is quiet, I thank my father for believing in peace, even when it failed him. His belief taught me what peace should truly be. There are days I feel tired. Justice work does not end. Power adapts. So do I. I remind myself to live, not only fight. I hike, read, cook simple meals. I keep routines. They ground me. Revenge once felt like fire. Now it feels like light. Controlled, useful. I do not wish harm on those who wronged us. I wish accountability. Some faced it. Some escaped it. That is life. The goal was never perfection. It was progress. I measure success by fewer letters like the one we received. By more voices speaking early. By councils thinking twice. When I hear someone say, "Keep the peace now," I ask, "At what cost?" That question changes rooms. It should. Peace that demands sacrifice from the same people again and again is not peace. It is theft with a smile. I learned that the hard way. I share it so others do not have to. My story is not special. It is common. That is why it matters. Sometimes I return to the empty buildings. They were never finished. Vines climb the walls now. Nature is patient. It reclaims what greed takes. I run my hand along the concrete and feel nothing but calm. This place once held my anger. Now it holds my lesson. Systems fail when people stay quiet. They heal when people speak. I do not regret what I did. I regret only that it was needed. I think of the young version of me, trusting, silent. I wish I could tell them to ask more questions. But life taught me instead. The cost was high, but the value was real. When storms come, I know how to stand. When told to be quiet, I know how to listen and still act. Peace was never my plan because peace without justice is a lie. Justice, even when slow, builds peace that lasts. That is what I stand for now. Nothing more. Nothing less. My phone still rings with unknown numbers. I answer some, ignore others. Each call is a choice. I choose carefully. Not every fight is mine. That was another hard lesson. Knowing when to step back is strength, not weakness. I mentor others now, passing on what I learned. Watching them succeed is better than any headline. They make mistakes. So did I. Growth is messy. The world does not change in one big moment. It shifts in small ones. A document filed. A question asked. A lie exposed. These moments add up. I keep records of wins and losses, not to dwell, but to remember balance. Without balance, purpose turns to obsession. I never forget where I started. A shop by a river. A letter. A promise. Those anchors keep me honest. When people thank me, I tell them to thank themselves for speaking. Silence is easy. Speaking is hard. Peace demands courage, not compliance. I learned that when everything was taken from me, I will not forget it. As years pass, my story spreads without my face attached. That is how I prefer it. The message matters more than the messenger. I see changes in laws, in attitudes. Small, but real. I see young people question authority with respect and firmness. That gives me hope. Hope is quiet, but strong. I still feel anger sometimes. It reminds me I am human. I let it pass. I focus on what can be done now. The past does not need my rage anymore. It needs my memory. Memory keeps mistakes from repeating. I keep mine sharp. When I stand at the river, I feel my father close. Not as pain, but as guidance. He believed in peace because he believed in people. I believe in people too. I just believe they need truth to be their best. Peace built on truth can survive storms. Peace built on silence cannot. That difference defines my life. They said keep the peace and took everything from me. I took something back instead. The truth. I no longer introduce myself with titles or roles. I am simply someone who listens and helps. That is enough. The world is loud with promises. I work in the quiet between them. Sometimes, justice looks like paperwork and patience. Sometimes, it looks like waiting while others catch up. I am fine with that. Speed is not always strength. Consistency is. I have seen powerful people fall because they rushed. I have seen small groups win because they stayed steady. I choose steady. When doubts come, I return to my notes, my guides, my memories. They remind me why I started. Loss can break you or build you. It did both to me. I let the broken parts teach me. I let the built parts lead me. Peace was never my plan, because plans can be stolen. Principles cannot. Fairness, truth, accountability. These guide me now. They are harder to take away. And I will defend them, quietly, for as long as I can. There is no final victory in this work. Only chapters. Some close cleanly. Others leave questions. I accept that. Life is not a story with neat endings. It is ongoing. I mark time not by years, but by changes made. A law amended. A family helped. A warning heard. Each matters. When I am tired, I rest. When I am needed, I return. Balance again. Always balance. The river taught me that. It flows without rushing, shapes stone over time. I try to be like that. Strong, patient, persistent. I am not angry at the town anymore. I am grateful. It showed me who I am when tested. It showed me that peace demanded by power is not peace at all. It is control. I choose not to be controlled. I choose to act. Quietly. Carefully. Fully. My story continues, faceless but firm. If you hear it and feel something stir, that is the point. Do not keep the peace if peace costs too much. Demand better. Sometimes I wonder who I would be if none of this happened. The thought fades quickly. That person does not exist. I am shaped by loss and choice. I accept both. I meet people at different stages of their own fights. I see fear, hope, anger. I recognize them all. I tell them the same thing. Start with facts. Facts are steady ground. Emotions come and go. Facts stay. This advice has saved more cases than any speech. I keep improving my methods, learning new laws, new tools. The world changes. So must I. What does not change is my core. I will not be silent when silence harms. I will not accept peace that protects theft. These lines are clear. They guide my steps. When I lay my head down at night, I sleep knowing I kept my promise. Not to revenge, but to truth. The difference matters. Revenge ends. Truth continues. I chose the longer road. It was worth it. I still avoid attention. Fame distorts purpose. I have seen it happen. People forget why they started. I do not want that. I keep my circle small, my life simple. That simplicity gives me strength. When chaos rises, I remain clear. I write, plan, act, repeat. The rhythm keeps me grounded. I am not a hero. I am a witness who refused to look away. Anyone can do that. It takes courage, but courage grows with use. I see that now. The phrase, keep the peace, no longer angers me. It alerts me. It tells me to look closer. Often, there is a cost hidden beneath it. I help bring that cost to light. Light changes things. Not all at once, but enough. Always enough. When I think of my father, I smile. He taught me kindness. Life taught me boundaries. Together, they made me who I am. Peace was never my plan because plans bend. Principles hold. I hold mine firmly, quietly, and without regret. As time goes on, my role shifts again. Others take the lead. I step back more often. That is success. Movements should not depend on one person. They should spread. I watch with pride as people stand up for themselves. I offer support when asked. Advice when needed. Silence when appropriate. Silence, chosen freely, is powerful. Forced silence is not. Knowing the difference is key. I write less now, speak less. I observe. Patterns repeat, but outcomes improve. That tells me the work matters. I never forget the beginning. Forgetting breeds carelessness. I visit the river once a year, marking the day the letter arrived. I stand, breathe, and let the past pass through me. No anger. No sadness. Just clarity. They said keep the peace and took everything from me. They failed to take my voice. That was their mistake. I used it carefully, effectively, and I will continue to do so, as long as needed. If you are listening to this story, you might wonder what you would do. I cannot answer that for you. I can only say this: pay attention, ask questions, read what you are told to sign, speak early. Power grows when unchallenged. It weakens when watched. You do not need to shout. You need to persist. That is what I learned. Persistence outlasts pressure. I am not special. I am proof. Proof that one quiet person can change outcomes. Proof that peace is not obedience. It is balance earned through fairness. My life is calmer now. Not easy, but calm. That calm is real. It was built, not demanded. I am content with that. I continue my work, unseen, steady. The river flows. The land heals. So do people, given the chance. Remember this when told to keep the peace. Ask who benefits. Ask who pays. Then decide. That choice defines more than you think. This is where my story pauses, not ends. Stories like mine never truly end. They pass on. I share it so you recognize the signs. So you trust your sense of wrong when smiles say right. So you know peace can be a lie when used to steal. I lost everything once. A home. A future I expected. A father too soon. I gained something else. Purpose. Clarity. Voice. I would trade it all back in a moment, but life does not bargain that way. So I use what I gained. I stand where I can. I step back when needed. I stay faceless so the focus stays true. They said keep the peace and took everything from me. Peace was never my plan. Justice was. Truth was. Balance was. And those are worth fighting for, quietly, carefully, and without fear.